Testing 1, 2. All right. All right, so we are live. What's going on, guys? Donnie Rouse here. And this one is called Feel the Burn. Have you ever felt like you were in a job and you just felt like you couldn't give any more, or that it was literally draining the life out of you? If you have ever felt that, chances are that you are feeling burned out. And I want to start by saying the reason for this podcast today was just because of some family member and friends who were going through exactly this. And it was something that I had been through early on in my career and even now. And the point of this podcast is to reframe what that burnout is, because it's so easy to feel the burnout and all of a sudden feel like, oh my God, and just feel drained. And as a result of that feeling drained, you almost just want to drown your your misery in some kind of like alcohol or food or something to take your mind off what it is you're going through. If you have done that in the past, I want to give you a little shake just to not do that this time, because what you're getting by experiencing that burnout is actually a gift. That burnout is saying, hey, things need to change here. And it is an opportunity to you to start to reevaluate your life, start to put yourself first, start to do the things that matter to you. So where are you in your career right now? We'll use career because most people will experience burnout or will usually associate the burnout to their career. Right? Maybe you have some kids too, but you can't really get rid of them, right? But we'll start with career. How are you feeling on a scale from 1 to 10? Like, where are you in your career emotionally? Do you feel like there's so much work that they just keep piling on, so much so that you can't even keep up, and now you're working well into the evening when you should be actually taking it off? And maybe it's even spilling into family time. So it's important here just to be real to yourself in terms of where you are emotionally. And then get real with the consequences. We think that, oh, well, it's just temporary, right? But how often do you say that and it is not temporary? Because I know when I was working in corporate America, I was working in corporate accounting. And I remember being done with my work and then getting jobs from other head accountants. They would come over to my desk, and be, "Hey, Donnie," or sometimes actually more often than not, I'm kind of guilty of it, because I would go up to them and I would say, "Hey, I'm done with my work. Do you have any work for me to do?" And I was like a little goody two shoes, but it was my first job, so I was just trying to do a good job there. And I would go up to the job and I would request some work to do, just if I could help them out. All of a sudden, now everyone just kept piling this work on me. And all of a sudden now I had responsibilities that were not even mine. Can you relate to that? Have you ever been given some responsibility, or just maybe an increase in responsibility? Maybe it is your role. Maybe you just got an increase in responsibilities. And now all of a sudden, because you met those obligations, they're like, "Oh, this woman is superwoman." And they start piling on even more. Where are you? Again, if this sounds like your experience and your life, then I want you to just smile and be grateful. Not just grateful because you have a job and looking at all the bright side, but really because it's a time to reconnect to you. See, the only time we ever make changes in our life is usually at that breaking point, usually at that point where we're like, you know what? I can't take it anymore. Things must change, and they have to change now. Maybe you are there. And if you are there, and if you are feeling the burnout, I want to give you 3 things that it's going to get you. 1, to get healthy. 2, to get clarity. And 3, to get out. My sister-in-law, go into the story that inspired it all. I was talking to my sister-in-law, and she's very successful at what she does. And she had just been feeling more and more burnt out because of the demands management was making on her. Now, she is in a role that she's very, very good at. I mean, you could put her in any role and she would be very good at. But was it the role that was feeding her heart? Was it the role that would let her go home and have her fill up inside? Was it a role that would actually give her another, a social life as well, right? Because there's more to work than just going in, working all day, coming back, eating, sleeping, and then repeating. All right, that is actually what part of the thing that causes the burnout. She had just been doing some big, big events, and now she was feeling the burnout. She was feeling the burn. And yesterday she had, confided us. She says, hey, you know what? I can't take it anymore. I am going to give my leave. I'm doing all this work, and now they're saying they want to do even more and increase the number of events I do. Like, I can't take it. I don't have a life. I'm sacrificing, and she's sacrificing her social life. She's sacrificing her family. And she was at that breaking point. I told her, I said, listen, this is a very good thing. And she was going over how long she'd be able to get by on her savings before it became worrisome. And my advice to her was like, all right, well, she could take multiple months off. I said, listen, take as much time as you need. Don't take a month off and be in a rush to go back to work if you have that ability. Or if you have, let's pretend like you have 3 months saved, right? 3 months security saved. Maybe getting a job just to make that time extend out a little bit more. So instead of 3 months, but if you have a small supplemental income coming in, maybe all of a sudden now you can stretch that to 5 months. So what is the point of this, right? Like, why do that? The first one is to just get healthy. When you are working all those hours, when you're putting all that time in, chances are, one, you're not working out, right? Because you don't have time to work out. Secondly, when you are eating, chances are you get home that night, you're not doing any kind of meal prep, right? You are tired. You're like, all right, screw this shit. I'm going to sleep because I can't even keep my eyes open. And then you wake up, what do? You go to McDonald's, you get a sausage, egg, and cheese. You get some kind of fast food because everyone's ordering at the office because you guys are working overtime. They ordered McDonald's again. You're like, crap, I didn't know I could eat McDonald's multiple times a day. And all of a sudden, you just start snacking on food that you know is not good for you. You know it's not going to give you the energy you need, and it's only going to make you feel shittier. And now, all of a sudden, you start to break down. So it's a time to start to pay attention and rebuild your health. What else is it offer? What other opportunities are in that burnout? Right? If you were feeling it, you don't even have to leave a job in order to have this experience, right? It'll just by feeling that burn, all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, things need to be corrected, right? What am I going to do? Clarity, right? People don't know what they want, but they do know what they don't want. I mean, did I say it correctly? They don't know what they want, but they do know what they don't want. I just said it slower and it sounds better. Right? If I were to say, oh, well, what do you want for your life? You'd be like, I don't know, or what don't you want for my life? Oh, well, you know what? I don't want to live in this town forever, or I don't want to work 15 hours a day and sleep 2 and spend the rest of the time worrying all the time. You know what you don't want. So the time is, if you're still in the job and you don't have the time off, it's time to just start giving some thought as to what it is that you really want in all the areas of your life, right? Because every single area of your life is interconnected. There's no such thing as saying, you know what, in my health, I want, 6-pack abs. I want, a nice round chest, very evenly proportioned where, the upper chest kind of bulges out a little bit and it makes me look like Baywatch. I don't even know David Hasselhoff. And I don't think he had a nice chest, but, whatever it is. But then to think like, oh, yeah, this is what I really, really want. Get clarity on that. All of a sudden, but you realize it's not really possible. How are you going to do that if you're working 15 hours a day? When are you going to do workout? When are you going to prep your food? How are you going to do it? Right? So all of your life has to be integrated. all of your life has to feed each category. So getting clarity is super important, because if you don't know where you're going, the chances of you getting there are nil, right? It's like the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. Can you tell me where or how to get somewhere? I don't even know what the heck the quote is. But he's like, can you tell me where we're going? She's like, I don't really care much at all. Then it doesn't matter where you're going. I think he was pointing in a direction somewhere. The same is true of your life. I used to have one of those posters that said, you can't get lost if you don't know where you're going. And I used to pride myself on that. I mean, I'm like, yeah, you know, I travel, but I've also had travels where I've gone and I'm like, what the frick am I doing here? Right? I might end up somewhere. And although I got to check the box of the country, I just did it for that reason. And all of a sudden, I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll just kind of look what's on, in that corner over there, or visit this area of the city. But having a clear focus allows you to do the things that are aligned with you. So let's pretend that you have to drive to New York, right? You don't even have a compass, right? You just got in your 1989 Volkswagen Rabbit. I think they had made the Rabbit in 89. And you're sitting there, right? There's no Wi-Fi, there's no navigation system, but you're sitting there and you're like, well, I know that my house is positioned south, and if I drive that way, I'll be going west. But what happens, right? You're driving towards west, but all of a sudden you start taking turns. There's like roundabouts, and all of a sudden you don't even know which way is north. The same is true for your life. Like, which way is your north? You need a North Star in which to point. You need something to guide you. So that is the importance of having clarity. And at the very least, a general direction, a general idea of what it is that you want. Because just by having that general idea, what that does is it allows you just to take the next step. You don't have to know all the steps, but you have to have a general direction. You can't say, oh, well, what is the next? I'm just going to go for the next thing without knowing what that general direction is. If you take the next step without having a general direction, now all of a sudden the next step you do is going to be inspired by something else. You're going to be on a different tangent. And then the next step you get inspired, you're going to be on something else. And all of a sudden now you're watering down your efforts. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, right? By having simplicity, it allows you to point and be very, very precise. And let's go to that last point. This one is probably my favorite point, and I always advise anybody who's going through any kind of career transition, this is the number one thing I recommend. Get out, meaning get out of the town you're in, get out of your comfort zone, experience something different, go to a different country and experience something. There's something to be said when you go into a different country that you've never been, and you let go of all like the luxuries and all the material possessions here. All of a sudden now your perspective is wide open. You start to see things differently. You start to value things differently, right? Because you're depending on how you travel. Like, I go to areas where I am looking at people. People are happy and they have nothing. They're eating like cornmeal for every meal. And yet they have their ability to smile. As it makes you question, you're like, man, what have they got that is making them happy? And aside from time, because you were burnt out, remember? But it gives you time to not only get out and get new perspective, to start to tick off some of those bucket list items and things that are going to matter to you when you are gone or before you're gone, right? Because if you're gone and all of a sudden, you're not going to really care about it. But when you're at the end of life, you don't want to get to the end of your life to say, you know what? I wish I did that. I wish I didn't spend so much time working, so I could have gone to... Oh, I'll throw it out there because I always say it. Eat pizza in Naples. Try coffee in Rome. See the Eiffel Tower. Eat a baguette. Apparently, I'm carb loading here. You don't want to get to the end of your life, and those are just experiential things, right? The harder things are like, you know what? I don't want to get to the end of my life and realize that I didn't spend time with my son or daughter, or I didn't get time to spend it with family because I was always thinking about some bullshit that did not even matter. But let's go back to travel, right? You want to get out and see the world. I mean, I know that's one of the biggest things for me, as well as family. So the three big things that you get as a result of having that burnout, right? Because if you weren't experiencing the burnout, you would have just kept going with it, right? Because not until you turn up the threshold of that pain do you even stop to look, right? It's kind of like, you need to take a job, right? You're looking to make some money to make ends meet, and you're like, you know what? Rather than look for the job that I'm going to be passionate in, I know I'm going to love, let me just take this one because it's here. And all of a sudden, 14 years later, you're still at the same shitty job that doesn't fill you up. And if that is triggering in any way, it's meant to be because you deserve to be happy, right? It's easy to get caught in roles. It's easy to get caught in identities as well. And I that's one that I have had trouble with as being a coffee professional, right? I mean, because there are synchronicities. Like my intention here is to get you out and into your life to experience more. That is one of the things that I want to do, and it's one of the things that I know that if you get out and you start to just give yourself more love, more time, more experiences, that I know it's going to change your life. Because no longer are you in the rat race. Now all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, you know what? As a result of doing, taking this trip, all of a sudden now my eyes are open to this new opportunity, or as a result of, just giving myself more time for my health, I realize that, now I feel good about myself, whatever it may be. And you don't even have to quit your job, right? Like you might be perfectly happy where you are. Having a business isn't right for everybody. And I'll tell you, I had delusions when I went into my business. I mean, I don't regret it at all. I love my business, although sometimes I want to break from it and often do take a break from it. But nevertheless, I don't regret it. But I know it's not for everybody, right? And if you had some people love numbers. Some people you could put them and say, hey, crunch these numbers, find the sequence or like the whatever I don't even know what it is. Some people look at numbers and they're like, oh, there's the pattern. And they know exactly what they're looking at. I look at a screen of numbers and literally my head spins. And I see like little numbers. It's like I feel like I'm on shrooms or something. Like the numbers literally will start to reorganize themselves on the screen. No bullshit and no drugs or anything involved. That's what happens when I look at numbers. I could do it. Do I get enjoyment? Hell no. Am I, I don't get filled up, so why do it? So the whole point of that little rant and numbers and tripping on something, I don't know what that is, maybe caffeine, was just to say that, I'm not putting down being in a job, in a corporate setting, as long as you like it. I do have an issue if you are in that job and you are fucking dreading every moment of your life. Then I have a problem with it, right? Because life is too short. You should enjoy your life, right? You spend so much time at work, at least bring some enjoyment to it, right? If every day is a miserable mess, then life is a miserable mess. Sure, there might be like the once in a while spurts where you feel good because maybe it's someone's birthday and someone brought in a sheet layer cake, right? And you're like, oh, well, I wasn't expecting that one. But you deserve to be happy. So I'm just saying that the point of all this was just saying, if you are feeling burnt out, look to get clarity as to why exactly that is. Maybe, the boss is making bigger demands on you. Maybe you're in a job that you hate. Get some clarity. And secondly, just start to take care and do things for you. That's the main point. Like if you're in an entrepreneur, whether you're in a corporate job that you love, but it just feels like it's a little bit too much right now. Allow yourself the grace to take a break, to give yourself the time to improve your health, to get clarity on what you want for the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 years of your life. And then go do it. Right? Start to take action on some of those things that you want for your life. Again, this all goes back to the fact that life is too short, right? we think that life is going to go on forever. We think that everything is pervasive when it really is not. If you have parents who are in that age bracket where they're starting to get sick and need surgeries and that you're confronted, it's right in your face, right? Because you're like, oh shit, yeah, eventually one day I'm gonna have to go through this, and you start to think about your own mortality. You start to think about your own decisions. So hopefully, this lands well with you and just gets you to ask some better questions in terms of what you want for your life. So that is all I've got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this rant and this podcast. And if you're feeling burnt out, just start to do some in probing in your own life and say, well, why am I feeling this? What is it about? Do I love my job, my career? Does it leave me fulfilled? Do I feel great doing it? But it's just too much work. Probe, understand what it is that you're feeling, so this way you can correct it. But also try to get some clarity as to just what you want for your life, where there are some misalignments. And of course, take the trip, right? You get vacation. Most people in the United States get at least a couple of weeks vacation, maybe 3 weeks, maybe, hope. But do something, step beyond your comfort zone, experience something different. I know once you get out there in the world, once you put yourself in different surroundings with different people, you start to appreciate, you realize that one, we're all the same, two, that there's so much great stuff out there, right? In terms of experiences, that you don't need the fancy car, the diamond ring, and all that stuff. While all of it's nice, right? I'm not saying anything against that too. I would like a nice Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean watch, chronograph though. Material things are nice. Experiences will live with you forever. That is all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this post. If you did, please hit that subscribe button. Share it with a friend, maybe someone who hates their life and their job at this moment. Send it to them so this way they can get a little bit of perspective and start to question some of their upcoming decisions. As always, you could subscribe. You could ask a question or comment via my website at www.donnyrouse.com. Again, www.donnyrouse.com. And stay tuned. We're in the middle of doing a new launch on a website, so there'll be all cool things, some freebies, some educational stuff, as well as some private groups that you can join if everything I'm speaking here about the experiencing more of life is your thing. So that is all I've got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Remember, you only get one life. Live it. God bless, and I will see you again soon.